Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hogue, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
Hi, I'm AJ Hogue, the author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Speak English fluently, speak English powerfully, speak English effortlessly, think in English, but you've got to commit to do that. I mean, you know this, right? You can't do this in just 1 week. You know, effortless English does not mean lazy English. Right? I've said this in my book. I have said this many times. Effortless English. It's not lazy English, okay? Effortless English is the result. It's the result. It means you finally will speak English effortlessly, right? When you speak English, it will come out effortlessly. It will come out fluently, naturally, right? That's why it's called effortless English. And some people say, oh, they see the name and they think, oh, that means lazy English. It means effortless. I do nothing. I can do nothing, and then I get instant results. No, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. Of course not. Of course not. That's not what the name means. Effortless English. Effortless English means speaking effortlessly as the goal, as the result. And that does take time. And it does indeed take some effort, right? You know this. It takes commitment. Most of all, you must commit. You've got to commit for many months to achieve that goal, to get to that goal. Most Effortless English fans and supporters and members are some kind of intermediate level. Most of you are intermediate level. A few of you are advanced. Some of you are advanced now. But most of you are intermediate. And so to go from intermediate to that effortless English, to the fluent English, you need to commit for many months, 6 to 12 months to achieve that, to get that. Does that mean you will speak perfectly in 6 months? Of course not. Effortless English also does not mean perfect. Okay, I don't speak perfect English. I will make occasionally a grammar mistake when I speak, and I don't know, sometimes I get tired. Maybe I pronounce a word incorrectly. Of course, there are many words in the dictionary that I don't know, vocabulary words. All of these things. So it's not about perfection. It's about, being understood. It's about speaking effortlessly, about speaking fluently. That's what effortless English means. That's what, fluent means. So to do that, to go from intermediate to effortless English to fluent English, you do need 6 to 12 months of real effort, of real focus, of commitment. Commit. This is why I like this word commitment, because it's a strong word in English. It has a great meaning. It's exactly what you need to do. You got to commit. And you commit to my VIP program. That's the best way, the easiest way to do it. So you get started at effortlessenglishclub.com. Go over there, join, sign up for the VIP program, but you must commit. 1 week's not enough. 10 days is not enough. 1 month's not enough. You know this. Everybody in the world knows this, okay? Anyone who tells you you can be fluent in, 3 months, from 0 to 3 months, and you're completely fluent, that's crazy. That's crazy. So yes, commitment. But here's the good news. When you commit, you can enjoy it. You can enjoy those months, okay? It doesn't have to be painful. No, not painful. It can be interesting. Can be fun. Can be enjoyable. This can be, lots of commitments in life are enjoyable. For me, exercise. I'm committed to exercising. I enjoy exercise. It's not torture. It's not pain. Maybe a little physical pain sometimes, some tiredness. But overall, it feels good. I like it. I enjoy the commitment to exercising. I enjoy the commitment. In fact, I feel bad if I don't. If I stay in the house all day, just sitting on my butt, on the computer, working too much, I feel bad. I miss that commitment because I want to go out and walk or jog or do some push-ups or something, right? So commitments can be fun. Commitments can be interesting. There's many commitments in life that are enjoyable. Some people Sadly, some people sadly have this idea that commitment is something bad or painful. It's a kind of negative word, but it's not. It's a very, very positive word. So commit to my VIP program. Go over there, effortlessenglishclub.com, effortlessenglishclub.com. Live on Facebook today. Been doing a lot of live shows this week, last week. We've got people, oh, hello from England. I'm guessing you are a foreigner living in England. Or maybe you're British and you finally have decided to learn the best kind of English, which is American English. That's also possible. Hello from Myanmar, Vietnam, Bulgaria. Heaven Flower says, your videos are the best. Heaven Flower, that's a nice profile name. New Zealand. Another English-speaking country, New Zealand, probably. Again, I'm guessing you're a foreigner living there. Colombia, Ukraine, etc., Algeria, Brazil. All right, great. You know how it works. I have a topic. I'll talk about the topic, then come back and read some of your questions and comments. As always, I cannot read every comment, every question, but I'll try to, get to many of them. All right, so my topic today is simplicity. Simplicity equals freedom. In my experience in life, this is the key to freedom. The key to freedom in life. Unless you're locked up in prison or something. But I'm talking about for normal people, normal everyday people. What's the key to freedom? Having a free life. Well, first of all, we have to decide, what is this word, right? We hear this word all the time, freedom, freedom, freedom. A lot of propaganda about this word freedom. Oh, we're living free. Everybody thinks they're so free. But are you? What does it really mean, freedom? Well, I believe it means that you are free. It's your time. It's that your time is free. That you are free, your time is free each day, every day, to do what you want to do, right? To do what is important to you. You're not for someone else. Your time is not focused on working for another person, making another person rich, for example. Making another person happy, someone you don't know. No, it's what's important to you and, of course, also your family. So it's really about time. Freedom is about time. Time is really the rare, the most special thing in the world we have. Not money. It's not money. It's time. In my opinion, I know and have seen a lot of rich people, very rich people, who, in my opinion, they're not free. They work like slaves for a company, for money. Their time is scheduled. Every 10 minutes is scheduled. They have no free time to change or do anything. They are a prisoner of their own money. They are a prisoner of their own success. They are a prisoner of their own schedule. And they can be stressed about it, not happy about it. They complain about it, but they don't change. Why? Because they're not free. They're not free. It's not just about money. It's time. It's having the freedom to do what you want to do with your time every day. That's freedom. That's what freedom means. Now, if we look at that definition, a lot of people are not very free. If we look at most countries, for example, the United States, most people work at least 40 hours a week, 40. But if you add the time to go to work and the time to come home, it's more than 40 hours. It's maybe, 45 to 50 hours per week. And some people work much more than that. And most of those people, maybe not all, but many or most of those people are not happy at that job. And when they're working for someone else, mostly they're working to make other people rich. It's the owners of the company. They become rich. not the employees. Not usually. So, time, freedom, time. And that's what I realized. I realized that at a fairly young age, where I realized, I guess I had a great childhood. This is, a good thing for me, I think. It was a positive thing in my life. I had a very free childhood when I was a child, elementary school age, middle school age. I had so much free time. I had a lot of friends, and I was outdoors playing with my friends all the time, exploring nature, just running around free all the time, learning, playing, enjoying life. And it was great. It's still a great memory. I had a very happy childhood. And then when I started to work, when I got older and I started to work, I thought, well, this sucks. Work sucks. I'm inside all day. I'm stuck indoors in a building all day. I'm doing work I don't like or enjoy. I have a boss who's not nice and not respectful, not good to me. I'm making very little money. The whole situation seemed terrible, and I realized this is not freedom. I missed my freedom. I missed that freedom of childhood. Now, of course, as adults, we have duties. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to make money or have enough food, right? And you can't just be a child and play around all day, but you can still be very free as an adult. How to do it now? How to do it? How do we do it? Actually, I believe now it's very easy to do in life. But the problem is mental, psychologically. Psychologically, it's very difficult. There's so much propaganda that starts with schools and media, especially, that people have a very difficult time becoming free. They're mentally, it's like the Bob Marley song, right? Free yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Good song. But he was right. Bob Marley was right. It's kind of a mental prison most of us are in. And that's what we have to break out of to become free. It's not a physical prison. So how do we do it? How do you become free? And I believe that simplicity, living a simple life, financially, this is the key to get your time back so that you don't have to work so much, so that you have more time for yourself to do what? To do anything you want to do, to read what you want to read, to learn anything you want to learn, to travel, to exercise, to be outdoors, to spend time with the people you like most, your family, your friends, to have your children, right? To have huge amounts of time every day to do all of this. How do we become free like that? Simplicity. Some of you may know my favorite American writer, one of my favorite writers in general, Henry David Thoreau. And he wrote a book called Walden, and this book is about his life experience. He had the same thought. Now, this was back 150 years ago. I can't remember, 1850, something like that, 1850, 1860, before the American Civil War. Life was more simple then, but he still saw the same problem. And so he asked this thing like, how do I become free? And he has some couple interesting quotes. Number one, he said, the things you own, the things you buy and you own, they own you. In many ways, they own you because they limit your freedom. And number two, he said that wealth meaning riches, right? True wealth means that you need very little, that you want very little, that your needs and your wants are super low. Because that means you are very free. It means it's very easy for you to have what you need and what you want. That is actually what it really means to be wealthy. That being greedy and wanting more. Even if you have a lot, even if you are a millionaire, even if you're a billionaire, you still want more. In his mind, Thoreau's mind, you're still not wealthy because you're controlled by money still. You're not free. So he thought that those rich people, many of them, they were not really truly wealthy, not in their heart. And Thoreau realized the same exact thing. He realized it's time. Time is precious. Time is valuable. It's the time, not money, that's most important in our life, right? We have 24 hours a day. That's it. Limited. It doesn't matter. You're super rich. You have lots of money. You have no money, but we all have the same time every day. It's time that is precious and limited. The time to learn, the time to dream, to do your dreams, to follow your dreams, to build a business if you want to do that, to travel, to do art, to spend lots of time with your family, not just a few hours after school. That's where the real wealth is, the riches. And so here's what Thoreau did. This is his story, what he did. He wrote a book about it. But he thought about this problem many times. And he realized, well, what limits my time? Why am I not free? Why do I feel that I'm not free? Why am I so busy? Right? I feel like I don't have enough time he wanted to be a writer. So he felt like I don't have enough time for writing. I don't have enough time for reading and studying what I want to learn. I don't have enough time to spend with friends. I want to spend more time with my friends. I want to spend more time just walking around in nature. He loved nature. He wanted more time for all of this. So he thought, why can't I? Well, because I have to work. Why do I have to work? Well, because I have to buy all this stuff. I've got to buy land, buy a house, buy food, buy this, buy clothes, buy all this stuff. To buy that stuff, to buy everything, I have to work a lot. When I work a lot, I don't have enough free time. This is the problem. So he decided, well, what can I do? He's like, okay, well, I need to eliminate or reduce what I need. That's the root of the problem, that I need all this stuff. That's why I work. So if I reduce what I need, if I live very simply, I'll have a lot of time. So what did he do? He went into the forest, into the woods outside of his town, and he found this little area of land, just free area of land, next to a small lake, right? A little pond. It's called Walden Pond. Quite famous now, but it was just a little lake, just a little small lake. And then with basically no money, almost no money, a tiny bit of money, he built a little tiny house there. Very, very simple. Just, wood and stone. No electricity, of course. There was no electricity. I don't think, 1850s? There certainly was not electricity in houses then. I don't believe. So, no electricity. Just very, 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 very simple. And then he planted a garden, a small garden for food. And then he had, some stuff for fishing. And so that's all he did. He lived super, super simply in this little tiny house. There was nothing in the house, really. Maybe a little bed on the floor. I think he had 2 chairs, he said in the book. That's all. That's everything. He grew some beans and some little plants to eat, and he went fishing and got some fish, and he walked around in the woods and walked around in the fields, and he would get little berries and some other foods. That's all. Very, 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 very simple life. Basically no money at all. And he had an amazing experience because he became free again. No more work. He found to work, just to live, he only had to work a little bit each day. Just look at the plants, make sure the plants are okay. Go sit in the lake, do a little fishing. Couple hours a day, that was enough. And the rest of the day, he could do anything he wanted. He had all this free time suddenly, again. And he could read books, and he loved to read, so he just read lots and lots of books about many, many topics. He actually read the Bhagavad Gita, probably one of the very first English translations of the Bhagavad Gita. He talks about the Bhagavad Gita in his book. He loved it. He would go on long walks. He loved to walk. So he would just walk around nature, visiting friends, visiting farmers, talking to people. Of course, he wrote his book, this very famous book that became very famous. He wrote his book. So he finally wrote a book. And, he prayed and he meditated and he visited friends. And sometimes friends would come and visit him in his little cabin. And he had this very relaxed, free life. It's a wonderful book. Really fantastic. All day freedom. He found true freedom, not from lots of money, but from the opposite, from simplicity. Now, the other thing he noticed as he was living like this, and he had all this freedom, he began to notice, to look at everyone else around his town, the farmers, the people in the town, and he started to realize, why they were not free. They were enslaved. They were slaves to money. They were slaves to their houses. Like he talks about how crazy their houses were. He built this little cabin almost free. Very, 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 very simple, cheap, and very tiny, small house, cabin, we call. Primitive, simple, but almost no money. So he built it in a short time, just a couple weeks, I think. And then he had a place to live, almost no money. Free. But he talked about how most people in the town, they would build these big houses and they were very expensive. They were too expensive to buy. In fact, they had to go to a bank, just like we do today, right? They had to go to a bank and get a loan and buy the house and the land, especially the house. And then for 20 years or 30 years, they were paying the bank for this house. And Thoreau talked about this is crazy. You're spending 20 years, 30 years just working and working and working every day, a slave, just to pay for your house, when you can build something simple in just 1 week, no loan, nothing, and it's done, and you're free. So he criticized his neighbors about this. And he noticed that because of this, his neighbors were having to work to pay for their houses, to pay for nice clothes, to pay for, all those things that people love. And they had never had time to do anything deep or meaningful. They didn't have time to read great books. They didn't have time to visit and socialize with each other enough. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. This book had a strong influence on me. Most of you know the story already, but I'll quickly tell a quick story again. I also in my life, before Effortless English, I kind of like Thoreau. I was having the same questions. Like I was tired of working, and I kept asking, how can I be free? How can I be free? And I read Thoreau's book, and I thought, yeah, that's great. He's right. So I want to try something like this. But at the time, I decided my friends were living in a town, and I decided I didn't want to go out into the mountains, or I didn't want to go into the woods. So I tried to think of how could I do this in a modern way, right? In not really a city, but in a town. How could I still live very simply, kind of like Thoreau? And this is when I decided, well, I'll live in my van. I'll live in a car. I did it 2 times. One was a small car. The next time was a little bit bigger van, V-A-N. I'll just talk about the vans. So I decided, well, I could do the same thing, but instead of building a little cabin, a little tiny house, well, I already have a car, so I don't need to buy anything new. The car was paid for, just an old van. So I'll take I took out the seats. I took the chairs, the seats out of the van, and I made a little wooden bed inside, and I made some little fans to keep it cool in the summer, so not too hot. Had a sleeping bag, some camping gear. My dog was with me, so it was my dog and I, both of us. And so I lived in a van, in a vehicle. But it was the same idea. I had no rent, zero rent, already paid for, no loans, nothing. So the same idea. I had a little money saved. I got a little part-time job. I saved some money. And then I live, again, very, very free. Suddenly I had a huge amount of time. What did I do? Well, I exercised. Every day I went for a long walk at the park with my dog. Also, I was running at that time a lot, so I would go for long runs with my dog. Then we'd go walking. Sometimes I took a bath in the river, which was very nice, actually, in the summers, of course. Not the winter, but in the summers I did. And it was fantastic. I had so much time. I had time to visit my friends, to do things with my friends. I went to the library and got books to read. I started my first blog then. Before Effortless English, I had another blog about just teaching English. And then that's the very beginning, like the very beginnings of Effortless English started when I was living in my van. I mean, now I look back, I realize they're connected. That living in the van, that's where the very beginning seed of this company started. Interesting. Why? Because I had so much time to think, to learn, to try different things. I had time to go to the library and create a blog and do it and write about it every day. I had time to just sit and think about, teaching English and life in general. I had time to read all these books. I had time to visit with my friends and talk to them. I did a meditation retreat at that time for 10 days. I lots of different things I did. Played different sports. It was great. Fantastic. So much free time. Did I have a lot of money? No, but I didn't need a lot of money. That's the point. And just recently I started thinking, well, what are some other ways? What are other ways this could be done? Another way you could do this, and a lot of Americans are doing this now. I think I've noticed some Europeans doing this now. I'm sure other parts of the world. Some people still live this way. And that is what's called a homestead. But it basically means a homestead is like a tiny little farm that makes everything you need to live. So you just need a small amount of land. This is not farming for money. This is just farming to live. And you can just buy a small little amount of land. You can build a tiny house like Thoreau. Very simple. Even no electricity, right? You don't have no electricity. You don't need electricity. Even you can live like 1800, like Thoreau's time period. Why not? They lived comfortably back then. If you do it correctly, you will still be clean and comfortable. It's just like camping. So anyway, you could do that. You could even camp in a tent. If you really had no money at all, you could just buy a tent and live in a tent. I mean, I've camped in tents. They're very comfortable now. Especially modern tents. They're completely rainproof. They'll keep you dry. They'll keep you warm. That and a good sleeping bag, you can be very comfortable still. So you just have a little amount of land. And then on that land, you grow food. You've got big, food gardens. You could plant some food trees, like for fruit. You could have chickens and goats if you wanted to have eggs and milk and things like that. And you could have most, maybe even all of the food you need on just a tiny amount of land and a very, 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 very cheap little house that you built. Or like I said, even a tent. And again, you would be free. Free meaning what? Free to do anything you wanted to do. Your time would become free. Why? Because you would not need to work anymore. You wouldn't need to. You wouldn't need to be making all that money. Now, you could choose to work, or you could choose, maybe a lot of people are afraid to start a business. They're afraid because, what if I quit my job and then the business fails, then I won't have work. But if you live really cheaply like this, you have no fears. You have enough food, you have shelter, you're everything you need, you already have. So then start your business with zero risk, zero fear. Just start a business. Maybe it will be super successful, maybe not, but it doesn't matter. You have no fear. Some people want to be artists. There are a lot of people who want to do art. Maybe drawing, maybe painting, maybe like artisans. They're carpenters. They want to do things with wood, or they just want to do something very creative, music. But they don't do it. Why? Because they're slaves to money. Well, if you can live very, very, very simply, you don't need that money. Well, now you can do what you love. You can do that art, or you can be an artisan as you want, because you have that freedom to do it. Some people want to be scholars and learn, not go to university and take tests, but to learn things they don't teach there, to read the books you want to learn, to study. Again, you would have the time to do that. Some people want to be religious. They want to spend a lot of time each day praying, meditating, reading holy books. And again, they don't, because they're working all the time. Some people love languages. They just want to learn lots and lots of languages. You see the point. The choice is yours. When you have the freedom, you can use the time any way you want. You can use it for family. You can use it for learning. You can use it for all of these things. You have so much time each day. You really can do all of these things and more. The reason I talk about this kind of, we could call it radical simplicity, right? Extreme simplicity, because this is the easiest way to freedom for most people. Yes, another way is to make a lot of money and only work a little bit of time. The 4-hour work week idea, right? You guys know that book, The 4-Hour Work Week. That's one way to do it. That's kind of what I do now. But I'll tell you, because I've done both. I've done radical simplicity. I've done the 4-hour work week. Radical simplicity, extreme simplicity is much, much, much easier to do for most people. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do that. The 4-hour work week, it's a nice idea, but it is not so easy. That book it sounds easy. If you read the book, 4-hour work week, it sounds really easy. He makes it sound easy. It's not. It's not, especially now. It was easier when he wrote the book, but right now, the businesses are much more competitive. Is it possible still? It still is, yes, but it's not easy. It is not at all easy. You have to have real business skills to do that. You really must know what you're doing. You probably need a little bit of luck also, and good timing. Or, even better is do both. And this is what I did. You start with the extreme simplicity. That gives you the freedom. It takes away all the fear. It takes away all the worry. Now you have nothing to lose. Then you can try to do a 4-hour work week. Then you can try to write that book and publish the book you want to publish. Then you can try to be an artist or a musician or an actor or whatever it is you want to be, because you're not afraid anymore. You're living so simply. You're not worried about money. So now you can work for love. You can do what you love because you love it, because there's something about it that makes you happy. I mean, how many people, they dream of being musicians, but they don't do it? Why? Because we all know most musicians are poor, and most musicians will always be poor, right? Only a tiny percent will go and make millions of dollars, and they're not even the best ones. We all know this too, right? You know how it works. Same in Hollywood. It's not the best actors that become rich and famous. Not at all. So a lot of people, maybe they want to be musicians. They would be great musicians, and they could have real fans locally. And maybe, they don't, maybe not super famous, but they could still make beautiful music and be very happy. But they don't do it because of the money. They're not free. And so they become, office workers or something, and they're never happy. And they always kind of regret that they didn't follow their music career. But if you living this super simple life, then you can be a musician. And you still maybe need to make a little money, but not so much. Or an artist, or an artisan, or a teacher, or whatever, right? Or just focus on your family. Just raise your children without working at all. That's also another good choice. Or a monk. Some people, you kind of have the idea you want to kind of be a monk. You want to pray and meditate all day. Well, again, how many people would like to do something like that, but they don't because they're not free? So radical simplicity, the reason I offer it, I know a lot of people, the idea of it in this time period now where we think more, lots of these things, we think we need all this stuff. We think we need electricity. We don't. You don't. You can be very comfortable without electricity. Very comfortable. Yeah, I've done it. I've gone on long camping trips, camping in the woods, just living in a tent with a bag on my back, and totally fine. Very, very happy, actually, being outdoors that way. Take a bath in the river, just eat with a little stove or a little fire. It's fantastic. I love it. Honestly, I miss doing it. I'm going to need to start doing it again more. That's one thing I like about camping. I think it was last year I did a podcast about that, just about camping, because it does teach you how little you really need, how you can really be comfortable and happy with such a tiny amount of stuff. So I offer this just because you don't have to do it, of course. I'm not telling you to do anything you don't want to do, but I just know so many people suffer this feeling that they're not free. So many people suffer feeling they're trapped in work or jobs or situations that they're not happy, but they don't know how to get out. They want that freedom back, but they don't know how. This is to my knowledge that I know, this is the easiest way. It is the easiest way. Is it easy? No, you have to have some discipline. You have to have a lot of discipline to simplify your life. In the beginning, it feels a little difficult because you're not used to it, but I promise you, you can be very, 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 very happy doing this. In fact, I believe you will be much happier living very simply. Once you get used to it, you realize you don't need there's so much stuff we think we need, we don't really need it. Okay, let's go to comments and questions. I'll take a drink of water and then let's see. I saw that Carol had a long comment. I missed her comment last time. She always has good comments. So let me get to Carol's. All right, Carol. Hey, sorry I missed your comment last time. I didn't even see it when we did our book club. So anyway. Hey, Jay, I heard you talked about Thoreau and Walden. Yes, it's true. He lived a wonderful free life. But what I would miss is this kind of life is the contribution part. Good point. Well, of course, he contributed with his books, but otherwise he didn't interact with a lot of people and had rather a lonely life. True. Now, that was Thoreau's personality. He was quite some people are more solitary, right? Some people just, they're happy being away from people most of the time. And some people are much more social. Thoreau, you read his books, you clearly see he had friends, but you can clearly see he was more solitary. He liked having a lot of time alone. And not everybody does. So good, you're correct about this. My question is, can a contribution and a free life go together? And how can we make them compatible? Because when some people rely on you, then you're not really free anymore. Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'd say for certain. Because again, when you have this simple life, Thoreau went out into the woods, but when you really read about it, when you read his book, some people read the book, they think he was out so far in the mountains away from everybody. But if you read the book more carefully, you realize he was just outside the town. It was only like I think a 20-minute walk or something, or maybe an hour at most from the center of his town. I mean, his friends came out. Emerson was one of his good friends, another famous writer. Emerson, he writes in Walden, he talks about there in a section, Emerson and a few other people came out and they had like a little dinner party in his cabin. He would walk into the town and visit his friends. He would walk and visit farmers and chat with them. So he was not like alone in the desert, okay, or alone in the mountains in a cave. Not at all. So you have to remember, once you have the freedom, you can do anything you want with that freedom. It's up to you. If you want to sit in a cave alone and meditate all day, you can. But if you want to instead work with other people, contribute to other people, you can do that with your time. That's what freedom means. It's your time now. You choose, not others, right? Now you are free to choose. You could volunteer, for example, but you don't have to do it for money. You take away the need for money. So now you have more choices. You could still work a job for contribution. You could still do that. Or maybe you think, I can contribute, but you could just volunteer. You don't even need to be paid anymore. And you can contribute to your community that way. Or a lot of people who do this in America, this homesteading thing, the farm version I mentioned, they're very focused on their families. They have large families. They have a lot of children, and they do it because they want to stay at home with their children. They do homeschooling, and they want more time. They want all that time to teach their children and do things with their children and spend all this time with their children. So that's why they do it. So they're very much contributing, in this case, for their children, or sometimes for their whole bigger family, like maybe older parents. So it's not about being a hermit, we say. A hermit is someone who lives alone, solitary. You can do that if you want to. But see, like I didn't either, right? I was living in my car. That's one reason I didn't go into the mountains. I could have just gone camping and lived in the mountains by myself. But, I like some time alone. But that would be too much time alone for me. So I decided I want to stay in my town. That's where I have some friends. That's where I wanted that life still. So I was very social at that time. So no, you do not at all have to be alone. Okay, Ibrahim Ali connected to this topic. And he is mentioning a book I absolutely want to do for book club. He says, I hope you do Your Money or Your Life for the next book club. And I might just do that. If I don't, I might do a fiction book first, actually, Ibrahim, and then maybe this might be the next one. I don't know yet. Let me think about it. But this is a fantastic book, and it's exactly about this topic in a modern way. It's basically about how to become free from money, right? Your money or your life. It's about how to become financially free. It's a very good book, and a lot of the book focuses on living very simply, but it has other ideas too. Hussein says, some people become crazy with money, and once they lose it, they get depressed and become mad. Yeah, indeed. But again, this is because it's connected to how much you need or you want. I mean, you can imagine, let's just imagine you're living on, you have a little bit of land, you have your little house, and you have a farm, a little small farm, and you have all the food you need. In fact, you probably have too much food. You can even, give away the extra food or sell it or save it for later. So you have everything you need, really. Everything you need to live. You're warm, you're safe, you're comfortable. Well, if you lose some money then, I mean, you're not happy, but it's no big deal, right? You're not going to be so scared about it because, well, I'm still okay. No big deal. Right? I mean, I was poor when I was living in my van, but I didn't care because I didn't need much. On the other hand, if you have a lot of debt, right? You have loans and you have a lot of bills, and every month you're stressed. You have to write all these checks and pay for all this stuff every month. And then you lose money, or then you lose your job. Then you are super stressed, right? Because you have all these expenses. And if you lose your income, super stress, right? That becomes super, super stress. So that's why I believe cutting your expenses, living that super simple life, it's connected to our book right now, actually, because it is a great way to reduce worry. Any kind of worry about money, any kind of worry about finances, about jobs, about business, anything like that. The more simple your life, the less you worry. Why? You don't need to worry. You're okay. You're fine. You'll be fine. Okay. Here's an entrepreneur. Dinah. I've built my business from nothing. Of course, with lots of work and learning. I'm a wedding planner in Italy. Well, congratulations to you. Good luck. Continued good luck to you. Yes, indeed. A lot of people, there's this idea that, what's the idiom in English? Let me think. You need money to make money, right? A lot of people say this. You need money to make money. And there's a little truth in that it helps. If you have money already, it's easier to make more money. For sure it is, because then you can just invest. Yes. But it's also not true, because many, many, many people start businesses with no money at all, with none. I started Effortless English basically with no money, a couple $100s. Dinah saying built her business, basically from nothing. How do you do that? Well, instead of money, you do work, right? You have to do work. Now, you can't do every kind of business, is not possible. Some businesses require money. Restaurants are a good example. You have to have money to start a restaurant, a loan or savings, because you need equipment, you need a building, right? There are many kinds of businesses where, of course, you definitely need money. But there are other kinds of businesses, like service businesses. Wedding planner that's a service business. She's doing a service. And that really is more about connections and work and time and skill. And you don't need to have a big building to do that. You don't really need to buy stuff to do that. You can start a business like that with basically no money or almost no money. So some businesses can be started without money. So anyone, some people, this is an excuse. They'll focus on one business, like a restaurant. And they'll say, I don't have any money. I can't start my business because I don't have any money. And they complain, and it's an excuse. But it's just an excuse, because they just need to, if you don't have money, if you have no money, you have to try to start a different kind of business, probably a service business. But you can still do it, but it just requires a lot of work. And again, if you live a simple life, if your private life, you basically have, almost no expenses, then you can just work on your business, and there's no pressure. There's not so much pressure. When I started Effortless English, I had an apartment, but we were living in a very, very cheap place. We were in San Francisco, an expensive city, but we probably had the cheapest apartment in the city. I think so. I never met anyone in San Francisco. I lived there 6 years. I never met another person who paid less rent than we paid. So as far as I know, we had the cheapest apartments in the whole city. So we were living in a very, very cheap place. So I only needed to work part-time at my job. Because of that, I had enough extra time to start the business. If I had worked full-time, if we had a more expensive apartment at that time, if I was living in a normal apartment in San Francisco, then I would have had to work a full-time job. Then I would have been too tired, not enough time to start the business. I'd probably still be, working for other schools and never started the business. That cheap apartment let me work part-time. That gave me the time and freedom to start the business, which then gave me the total financial freedom. You see how it works? But it started with that simplicity again. Okay, now this is a common comment, so I want to share it because it's very common, and it's not a problem. My problem is I don't know what I love to do because I'm thinking about money. Money starts everything. Right, you're thinking backwards. This is the problem. So how do you find out? It's very common. I told the story this week. 20 years I didn't know what to do. 20 years I hated working. 20 years I wanted to be free. And also 20 years, I really had maybe 15 years, we'll say. 15 years about that time, I tried so many different jobs and didn't really like them until I started teaching English, and I enjoyed it. But even the beginning of teaching English, I didn't like it. My first 2 or 3 jobs teaching English, so. Later, I began to enjoy it. So how do you find out what you love to do? You have to try a lot of things. You just got to try a lot of things. And how do you try a lot of things? Well, you need freedom to do that, right? You need freedom. If you're focused on money, then you have to get a job that pays a lot. When you get a job that pays a lot, you'll be a prisoner. You'll be afraid to change jobs. You'll be afraid to try something else. Why? Because you'll make less money. So you'll be stuck. You'll be stuck in this job that pays a lot, but you don't like it. and you don't know what you like to do. That's normal. But you're afraid to try something else because then you'll make less money. Now you're a prisoner. A lot of people do that for their whole life. So I was lucky. I don't know if lucky or smart or whatever. But anyway, money didn't mean enough to me. I just didn't care about it enough. So I would just quit. I just quit so many jobs. And people thought I was crazy, or they worried about me. But I never had a problem getting another job. And a lot of them were terrible jobs. And many of them did not pay much. They paid badly. But because of this, I got so much experience. I tried so many different kinds of things. I tried physical work. I tried, I was a security guard. I worked in a hospital. I got to work in all these different situations, and I even worked in different countries around the world. And so this is how I started to figure out, I like this kind of work. I don't like this. And I, little by little, I found my way to what I love to do. And I found my way to living a more free life that I enjoyed. So again, this is the importance of that freedom. Okay. Okay, this is about, we can experience a certain freedom when we retire after planting the seeds of work and collecting the fruits. More time to yourself is one of them. Yes, some people wait until they retire, for sure. This is one of the traditional ways to do it, and is great. But in my mind, do it before you retire. Why wait? Okay, now Rafiko with a good comment, and he's right about this, 100% right. Propaganda is being taught in the schools. That's why students can't get free time. Yeah. Students are kept busy providing bullshit work in the name of homework. Amen. Correct. So students are getting 0 hours for freedom. Correct. 0 hours for independent study, right? It's a complete failure of the current education system. Agree, I agree, I agree. You are right, you are right. 100% agree. Okay, now here's an interesting comment. And I'm sorry, I can never say your name because I believe it's in the Indian writing system. But he says, yes, I have an interest in singing for God. Well, there's a good point, right? Fantastic. Do it, right? Now, of course, you can do it part-time and do as much as you want, but the more freedom you have to do that, you can focus more and more and more on that. Is that going to make you a lot of money? Probably not, but who cares if you love it? Roman, how would you be able to start Effortless English without electricity? I went to public libraries. I was living in a car, but I went to use the computers at the library. Okay, Rafiko with, again, a question, and I just want to answer this because I will do this. Sir, could you do a podcast on different types of home education? Yeah, I will be doing a lot of podcasts about homeschooling and home education. I have 2 babies. We will homeschool our children for sure. So I'm thinking about this all the time now. I already have some pretty good ideas about what I want to do, but I'll also be doing things with my own children. And of course, I'll probably, I'll learn as I do that also. For sure. There are many different ways to do it. And this is one of the things I love about it is the freedom. Because, every family is different. And so there's not one right way, right? It depends on your family. It depends on your culture and your nation, where you come from. Someone I believe who is from Myanmar asked me today to recommend a homeschool system for middle school. And I recommended one, but it's American. Ron Paul has one, a curriculum for homeschooling. I haven't used it myself, but I've heard it's good, and I like him. But here's the thing, though. It is very American, right? So what does that mean? It means So, for example, in that curriculum, the history, it focuses on European and American history, right? It focuses on Western, right? Because that is connected to America. America was a British colony, has a British heritage, so which then connects to all of Europe, right? Going back to the Romans and the Greeks typically, and even to the ancient Egyptians. So typically in an American system, there's going to be a lot of focus on that. On the other hand, in an American system, there will be little or almost zero teaching about Asian history. Like in just speaking my own education growing up as a child, I learned zero. I mean zero, nothing. I learned nothing about Chinese history. I learned nothing about India. I learned nothing about Japan, until maybe World War II, 1940s or something. But in terms of old history, I learned nothing about those places. I learned almost nothing about Persia. The only thing I learned about Persia was, the wars with Greece, Alexander, but nothing else. And, is that bad? I mean, yeah, I think it's a little bad. I wish I had learned a little more. But still, you can't learn everything. So there needs to be a focus. So if you're from India, if you want to do homeschooling, probably, of course, you'll teach your child a lot more about Indian history and culture and traditions. And your children would learn much less about American history than I did. And that's good and that's normal, of course, because you've got to focus on your own culture, right? So an Italian is going to focus more on Italian history and culture and less on American. Whereas an American, of course, is going to focus very much on the American Revolution and the Founding Fathers and the Constitution, right? So this is the good thing about homeschooling is you can tailor it, right? Customize it, we say, for each family. It's also true, for example, even in one country. So in America, you've got a lot of people homeschooling, but still the families are different. Some of the families, for example, are very Christian, very, very Christian, strongly Christian. So of course, their homeschooling curriculum, teaching, will have a lot of Christian education about Christianity, the history of Christianity, and the teachings of Christianity. But others they're more like another group that does a lot of homeschooling in America are more like kind of hippies, really kind of almost the opposite. They're kind of more left-wing and hippies, and they're focusing more on like the environment and farming and they don't focus on Christianity very much. That's fine. It's okay, right? Because they're focusing on what's important for their own family. So you can do this with homeschooling, which is great. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. Paula. We are really free to choose how to spend our time. ? We have a lot of duties. Well, we all have duties in life for sure, but we have a huge amount of choice. That's what free will means. Most people don't use it very much, but we certainly do have the choices. Absolutely, we do. Hey, Lisa. Lisa's checking in. Got back from her trip to Thailand, so I want to read her comment. Lisa says, "Hi, AJ. I'm back from Thailand where I had an incredible time. That's great. Today's topic is for me. I'm just working to make my life easier. I start by selling a lot of things. Then I will better structure my day. I'll use my free time to learn more, listen to your lessons, podcasts, and live Effortless English shows. I'll spend more time with my mental, spiritual, and physical health. Yes. Thank you for your themes, book club, and podcast. I often think about them and the very good ideas for my life. Many thanks. Thank you, Lisa, and good to see. Is it Liza or Lisa? I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing. But anyway, thanks for checking in. I'm glad you had a great trip to Thailand. And I mean, that's what it's about, right? Let me just reread this part. I will use my free time to learn more, to better learn more. There's one way to, right? I'll spend more time with my mental, spiritual, and physical health. I mean, how many people complain, I don't have time for exercise. I don't have time for reading lots of books. I don't have time for all this. Yes, you do if you make it. You've got to make it. And the way to make it, one way to make it, I won't say the way, but in my opinion, one of the best ways to do this is extreme simplicity. Okay, Nasser with a comment. Let's see. Time seems difficult to get in the modern world. Seems is the important word in that sentence. Because of distraction. That's right. Even if we have time, we create excuses. Like I have time to learn a language, visit my family, make a phone call to talk to people. This is why self-discipline is a hard thing to do. Well, it's why self-discipline is important. You're right. It is distraction. In our modern world, distraction is one of the big enemies of freedom. This is why there's that guy, Jocko Willink, Navy SEAL guy. And his motto is discipline equals freedom. So I'm saying simplicity brings freedom. But his motto is discipline equals freedom. Well, this is why, exactly what Nasser's saying. He's saying that the reason people are not free, the reason people don't live great lives, the reason people don't try things and do the things they dream about is they don't have discipline. They get distracted by all this other stuff. And so controlling your own mind, focusing your mind, controlling your own actions every day will bring you what you want in life eventually. So you're right about that. Self-discipline is very important. It's easy to get distracted. You can play video games all day, right? You can if you want to. You do have that freedom. You could simplify your life and then just play video games all day. Is that a good use of your time? Maybe not. I'll address this one really quick. Attila. Nice, strong name, Attila. I always think of the Hun. Previously said not to talk about politics and faith. You sometimes do. Yeah, I changed my mind. Oh, you're a Stargate fan. I see from your profile. Cool. Can I be a good man if I'm not a believer? I'm not pushing any one religion at all. And I think that, read. That's why I say, when I talk about these topics, I also mention philosophy and philosophers such as Aristotle. I believe so. So, the bigger topic is to focus on, philosophy, ethics, meaning. These things are important. I'm not, I have my own personal religious beliefs, but that's why I say even for people who are what are called agnostic, they're not sure. But there have been great men and women who were agnostic or who were what are called pagan, meaning, they came... That's what Christians call them, but like the Greek philosophers, the Roman philosophers, even many different ones. Okay, so it's just a matter of focusing on and thinking about these big questions. So much of it, our time now, we don't think about these things anymore. But these are the most important things in life. I mean, what is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? What does it mean to be a good person? What does that mean? Why are some people evil? How do you deal with evil? What do you do about it? How do you fight it? In yourself and outside, in the outside world too. These are all very important questions. I'm not a saint or anything, so I can't answer them all, but that's why I feel like I changed my mind, because we have to talk about them. because these are the most important things in life to think about, I believe. Okay, Hamid says, what do you think about the book Rich Kid, Smart Kid? Robert Kiyosaki, the guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah, it's a pretty good book. It's got some nice ideas. I've read it. I will be using some of his ideas with my own children. Certainly, I will teach my children about money. I will. We'll probably use one of Robert Kiyosaki's games. It's pretty good about that. And just in general, I'll be teaching my children about how does it work? And especially I'll be teaching teaching my children about money and being an entrepreneur. That, how to really master money and be free financially by being a business owner or through investing, not just being an employee. I will certainly teach them all of that. Of course, when they become adults, it's their choice, but they will have the knowledge. Better sad with money than sad without. I would run the risk. Oh, I'm not so sure. It's just better not to be sad. How about that? Better to be happy. The money part, I'll tell you what money does. It reduces some stress. It reduces financial stress, obviously. Is that good? Yeah, it is good. But what you're missing, Lisa, is the fact that it's not the money, it's financial freedom. And see, this is what Robert Kiyosaki was trying to teach. It's not the amount of money. There are a lot of rich people, a lot of people you might think are rich. They have the big houses, they have the big cars. And it's not just that they're not happy, they are stressed. They are super stressed about their money. Money is making them less happy. Money is stressing them. Why? Because they're in debt, because they owe a lot of money. Because they want more things. They're not free. The money's not helping at all. It's not the amount. Okay, it's not, if you have $1 million, it's better than not having $1 million. No, what's better is to be free. It's better to have $5,000 and no debt, no expenses, to be totally financially free, no money stress at all, and only $5,000. That's better than $10 million, but you owe $12 million. And you have to work like a slave 80 hours a week just to keep paying your loans. And you're afraid all the time you're going to lose everything. You see? It's not just having the money that's not the point. It's to be technical, Robert Kiyosaki would say it's your balance sheet. We can talk about the technical parts, but it's the overall financial freedom. This again is why the simplicity is so important. If you have a little farm, you have all the food you need, you're comfortable, you have no financial stress now, or almost none. So you can be totally stress-free financially with a very small amount of money. So this is the point. It's not the amount you have, it's not the amount you make. Because you also have to look at the other side. How much do you owe? What are your expenses? What are your habits? How much do you want? How much do you feel you need? And a lot of people who seem rich are stressed out about money all the time because they need more, because they have no discipline and they spend too much, because they have a lot of debts, a lot of loans, because they invest very badly in businesses and they lose huge amounts of money, on and on and on and on. They have huge financial stress. That's not a good situation. I'll give you a personal example. When I was living in my van, I was making much less money than 5 years before. 5 years before, I had a job at a hospital. I was making, not great money, but good enough, decent money. But I also had a big, I had a normal apartment. I had other expenses. I had some credit card debt. I had more financial stress when I had the full-time good job. I had less financial stress living in my car, working part-time, delivering sandwiches a few hours a day. So you have to look at the whole picture. What are you drinking, AJ? I'm drinking water. Okay, let's see. Domin says, you need money for recording your lessons. No, I don't. Almost nothing. Okay. Yeah, Liana, she understands. My freedom is my business because it was my dream and no boss. That's why I did it too. I didn't do it to get rich. I did it to be free. I disagree with this one. It's difficult to live far from the city because where the electricity, school, and water are, there are not enough life resources. That's not true. First of all, schools suck, so it's good to be away from. And the country, the countryside has schools also. I don't know what country you live in, but everywhere in America, the countrysides still have schools, but homeschool. You don't need school. This is the point, see, when you simplify. If you teach your children at home, teaching your own children, you don't need it. Electricity, you can get solar panels if you really wanted to do it, if you want to go extreme. But again, most farming areas in the world have electricity. So I was giving an extreme example, but you certainly don't have to be that extreme if you don't want to. Water, the countryside has lakes, the countryside has rivers. I'm not sure. Cities, it's quite the opposite. Cities don't have resources. All the resources are brought into the city. And if there's an earthquake or some disaster, you will quickly find out the problem. All the food disappears in the city. The food is not in the city. It's all brought in. The resources are out in the countryside. That's where the food is. That's where the water is. That's where everything is. It's all brought into the city. What's in the city are luxuries. Okay. Okay, a couple more and then I'm gonna go because I'm gonna go to bed early tonight. Evgenia, sorry about your name again. Hi Jay, I hope you and your family are doing well, thanks. First side, I agree. People are dependent for money and stuff. I do it too. Yeah, we all do it. I want to have a good life. Is it bad? Well, it's a choice. That's all. It's a choice. If you want to give everything for your children or to help your parents, take care of them, or just have possibilities traveling at least a few times a year, is it bad to give something more? Let's see. Of course, love is good and family is important, but if you have children, you must take care of them, not only mentally. True? I don't know. Maybe I'm too young to understand. Yeah. So, living simply helps you do all of those things. If you, the more simple you live, the more freedom you have, then you have more time and more choices. So you can take care of your family better. You can, travel's a good one. This is a big reason I lived more simply, so I could travel. Because when I was living normally, when I had a normal apartment and paying normal rent and everything, I could not save money. It was impossible for me to save money. I just couldn't do it. My salary was too low. My expenses were too high. I could never travel. So to travel, I had to live very simply. I continued making money, but then I could save and then quit my job and go travel. So living simply helped me travel a lot more. And of course, later I also would teach English in other countries. But this is the point. The more simply you live, you can keep making money. But now now it becomes very easy. Now you have so much extra money, right? You don't have to quit your job if you don't want to. Another choice is you work for a while and save. So this is another huge advantage. It helps you financially. It helps you save money, which gives you more financial choices too. So this is the point. Without living simply, I couldn't have done a lot of things that I did, and I'm very happy that I did. A lot of great things, especially the travel. mean, I can travel now because I have money, but at that time, the only way I could travel was living super simply. And also when I traveled, I did not stay in luxury hotels, right? I was backpacking, staying in the cheapest places possible. But it was still, I had so many great experiences doing that. And I also went to countries. When I traveled, I could not go to expensive countries. I had to go to countries where it was also cheaper to travel. But again, I'm happy I did. Farhan says, I'm going to build up my real estate project with zero investment. Well, good luck to you. I don't know anything about real estate, but good luck. Hamid says, according to what Robert Kiyosaki says, you have to be free, you have to acquire assets. To be financially free, according to his definition, yes. But not only acquire, you can build them also. You can also build assets. This is the key, right? If you have money, you can just buy assets. That's right. This is why if you have money, it is easier to make money. You buy assets. You have your money, you save money, you have $1 million. Well, then you buy more assets and now you make more. Yes, of course. That's great. We all know this. But if you don't have $1 million, if you have nothing, what do? Are you lost? No. Then you have to build assets. How do you build assets? You build them with time. So you build, and this really means businesses usually, businesses. So you can build assets using time instead of money. Okay, let's see. We are almost done. And Mohammed asking the same question. Is it possible to start a business from nothing? I mean, very small wealth. Yes, as I was just saying. Of course it is. Asma, can you speak about how to get an online business? An online business, it's another business that can be started with very little money. One of the advantages of it. But it is competitive, so you have to learn marketing. This is the trick. It's not just online. Any business, you've got to learn marketing. You've got to learn marketing is a key skill. Marketing and sales are very important skills that all business people must learn. Okay. Okay, Carol, I'm going to end with Carol's question because it's a really good one. I already live a simple life. Good. But how to be free from financial pressure related to the future? Yeah, right. Bad situations that require money that could occur. Right. And this is that book, Your Money or Your Life, talks about this exact question. But, basically you have to have savings, right? You have to have savings or investments or assets. This just happened with me, right? I got 2 babies, one of them in the hospital, huge expenses, huge financial expenses. But thank God, because we live so simply, we were saving money all the time. So we had enough money to pay for the medical expenses. If we didn't do that, if we had lived more, normally, we would not have so much savings, and then it would have been a huge total disaster with our babies' health problems. But thank God, because we live so simply, it's okay. So this is how you do it. You have to live simply, and then you have to save your extra, right? You've got to say, you don't just, you've got to have this, they call it a cache or a cachet or a cash. It just basically means you need an amount of money. Different people have different ideas, like enough to live for 6 months or enough to live 1 year with no income. Some people want to do it for even more time. Or you need some kind of asset, like investment asset that brings you income all the time. But, I think it's always good to have a big amount, eventually in the beginning, it's hard to do this, but eventually when you live very, very simply and then you're making enough money, you're making more, you're spending less. Well, what do you do with the extra money? Buy assets. That's a good one. But also you should put some for emergencies, right? And it's your choice how much. Enough to live for a year, enough to live for 5 years, enough to live for 10 years, whatever. But that's how you do it. Okay, well, that's all. Time for me to go. It's good talking to you. As always, I hope you enjoyed our topic today. Now, as always, commit to our VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. effortlessenglishclub.com. Live simply. It's one way of freedom. Again, I'm not telling you must do this, right? This is just, it's a tool. It's a strategy. It's just, I know a lot of people are frustrated and they feel they're not free. Well, this is one way. It worked very well for me. It has worked for many people in the past and continues to work for many others. Now, some people like luxury, okay? Robert Kiyosaki is a good example. Robert Kiyosaki, if you read his books, he disagrees with me about this. Why? Robert Kiyosaki likes luxury. He likes expensive cars. He likes expensive suits. So Robert Kiyosaki focuses on making more money, making a lot of money. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's not wrong. He's good at making money. He's also financially free. I'm just saying that for most people, this is easier. First, living very, 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 very simply. This will give you freedom sooner. It will give you freedom faster. It will give you freedom easier. It's hard to make a lot of money. Can you do it? Yes, but it's hard, and for most people, it takes a lot of time. But living simply is much faster. You can do it very quickly, and anyone can do it. So that's why. It's just a choice. If you don't like it, don't do it. But I recommend at least try it. Then you can focus on doing great things like just learning English all day. Commit to my VIP program. Lots of love to you. Mwah. See you next time. Go to effortlessenglishclub.com, effortlessenglishclub.com. Commit today to my VIP program, effortlessenglishclub.com.